Welcome back. This segment of our program brought to you by Madisonville Marine. When it comes to reasons to buy a boat from these guys, you can go with a huge selection of boats because it's bigger than anyone else's in East Tennessee. You can go with the great pricing, better than anyone else in East Tennessee. But everybody I talk to, it's customer service. The honesty, the customer service, the way they treat you, the way they handle your boat, the way they take care of it when you need it taken care of, that's what keeps people buying one boat after another from these folks. Madisonville Marine, you think about nearly 50 years in business down there in Madisonville, between Knoxville, between Chattanooga. This is a company that thrives on repeat business. You get repeat business by being a good business. That's Madisonville Marine. Okay, let's go ahead and put up Tennessee's. I'm looking at a monitor off camera. We need Tennessee's 10 foes, Chris, if you can find that full screen for us. The one that's Tennessee's 10 foes, it should have been in Block B. Now you're getting behind the scenes TV talk here, a little extra stuff. No, that's not the right one. Needs to be the one that says Tennessee's 10 foes. It's all right, take it down. We don't need it. There we go. Hey, there it is. All right, cool. There's your 10 opponents for Tennessee. Josh Kendall of The Athletic, David, your employer, he predicted the SEC's complete slate once it came out, and he has Tennessee finishing 4-6. 4-6 against that run. Now, again, Tennessee was viewed as top 26 by the coaches. You want to look at it that way. That doesn't take the schedule into account. What's a good year versus this schedule? I mean, personally, I love playing 10 good games. I think it's great. Coaches won't like it because their records are going to suffer. I love this. I would take this every year if you gave it to me. But is it a 5-win season? Is it a 6-win season? Is it a 7-win season? What's the good year for Jeremy Pruitt?
I think you have to look back at Tennessee's just pure SEC record. People just look at the total record, and it's been around 500. I think 4-6 to 6-4 makes sense. But I think people, when you're trying to assess this year, you have to kind of throw out the total record. It has to be, where are you in relation to the rest of the league? I mean, everyone's saying, and I agree, that Tennessee is the third best team in the East. They're keeping the divisions for 2020. If Tennessee finishes third in the East and they're 3-7 or whatever it is, you have to sort of look at it and say that's where they are. I mean, I just don't think the record is going to tell you that much. I think on the field, what you see will tell you a lot if you have a lot of close losses and all that stuff. But it has to be where you are in relation to the rest of the league more than the record itself, I think.
That's an interesting answer. What's a good record? No, I think and it's also, as I mentioned earlier, the record is going to be inflated or deflated, more than likely, based on the COVID numbers on your team and other teams. So but for a ballpark, I don't think you can play all 10 of these games either. But let's say you do. We're living in the theoretical world. So, in theory, if you played all these games and everyone's healthy, what's a good number? Or do you agree with David, just finish third in the East?
David's points are all right, and being closer against the good opponents because you haven't in the end. But I would say a good record is 6-4, a winning record against this schedule. You went 5-3 a year ago. If you can split against the two power teams, Auburn and A&M being added, I would say 6-4 would be a good record. 6-4 or better.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. 6-4 is where you get. That would basically be in a normal season, that 8 or 9 win team. If you're playing in a regular year, that's where you wanted to see this team progress. So 6-4 is a good season that you've had.
Yeah, 5-5 would be an attaboy year. If Josh Kendall's right and it's 4-6, that's not good, but would be understandable with that schedule. It is a tough one.
All right, are fans going to buy that?
No.
6-4. I mean, because it looks like one game over 500. Just looking at it. If you take everything else out of it, the fact that it is a COVID year, you are getting a tough schedule. If you take all that out and just look 6-4, I don't know that people are going to go crazy about that or accept that. I think they should. I think 6-4 against that schedule is very good. If they did something better than 6-4 against that schedule, hey, you've got a coach to go for the future.
That's right.
But do fans accept it? David, you say no.
No, I don't think so. I think some might. I think the ones that are watching really closely will. But I think the folks that sort of watch the games on Saturdays, and that's their extent of following, 6-4. What happened to, feels like 98? What happened to that? That's what it is. That's what coaching is at this point.
Well, and I think that could be said anywhere, too.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
It's not just Tennessee fans. That's just
Yeah,
fans in general.
I mean, Alabama's going to be disappointed if they're going undefeated. But guess what? With that schedule, even where they're going to be this year, all SEC games, chances of anybody going this whole route undefeated is going to be if somebody does undefeated this year, that will be amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen for any team in this league.
That's a good point. Josh?
I would say this is where I would combine David's initial answer and what I said was 6-4. If Tennessee goes 6-4 and is closer in those 4 losses, then I think fans will be happy with it. If Tennessee gets waxed by Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and one of the other SEC West teams and goes 6-4, then at that point I think fans will say, okay, we had a winning record, but the really good teams that we want to beat up on us. That's what would make fans upset.
In fairness, if you're being realistic, and that means that's fans, that's those of us in the media, if you're being realistic, could this be anything more than just a measuring stick year? I mean, isn't this really, let's just gauge how you got a chance to see yourself against 10 foes. It's a weird year. I'm going to cut you some slack if you don't have a good year. If you win, hooray, but there's got to be a little salt thrown in with that as well. This to me just seems like the kind of year where, all right, let's reset, see where we are, and then come back next year.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd say that you need like a breakthrough win, but that was the one thing that was missing last year that you had, ironically in 2018. You had that Auburn and that Kentucky win that you're like, hey, they beat some teams that have done some things. Last year, you go 8-4 or 8-5, but they didn't really beat a team that you're just like, oh, wow, Tennessee had like no business beating that team. And I think you have to do that without the asterisk of, well, Florida didn't have their whole offensive line, or you have to do that. That's going to be weird. But if they can have a big win that people are like fired up about for like 2 weeks, and are like, man, I think that would do almost as much as the full season. If you win 1 or 2 of those games, that you walk in as a double-digit underdog and you win, I think that can go a long ways in showing what Tennessee can be, because Tennessee at their height last year was still like a pretty average team, and that, if you can show what Tennessee can be, you can really do a lot for people believing in the future of the program.
And I think fans will buy into that. Now, me, I'm going to have the same reaction to big wins, big glorious wins in this kind of season that I will to terrible, unexpected losses. It's just a weird year. It's going to be hard for me to say, well, they beat Alabama this year. That's exactly what they would have in a normal year, too.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
I still don't think you're going to get credit. If you go uncompetitive against like what Josh is saying against teams, I think that's where you get people are going to take more to that side of using this year against you. I don't think you gain much by doing well this year, unfortunately. I think you can still come out of this bad by not looking competitive.
All right, I tell you what, when we come back, could this be good for Tennessee in the long term, playing this many top 15 teams? Could this be a good thing in terms of battle testing this team? And if it doesn't go well, could it hurt recruiting? We'll discuss. Come on back.